I'm Julie.
Okay, Julie. Where are you from?
I'm from Carinthia originally, but I've
Okay.
lived and studied and worked in Graz for
Okay.
at least the past 8 years.
Okay.
So I've become a little bit of, it was kind of molecular biology.
Oh.
And at the time, I think they still do, but they had an entrance exam. And that was only at the end of October, but I wanted to start studying at the beginning of October.
Okay.
And so I registered for the teaching degree in biology, but because you need a second subject, English. English is something that I see myself, doing. But then my first few classes started, and I met some of the people that also studied English in the teaching degree, and I kind of fell in love with the people who do this work. These were passionate people. So how can we be the best teachers in this environment? How can we give the most to students who need it the most, and also engage with those that could use more? You know, there are people who are really gifted academically and who need support to excel as much as the people who do not excel need support to be lifted up. Right. But on the other side, the way that an individual teacher can give a positive feeling to a child, to the learning experiences of a young person, I think that's what really changes society. Perhaps more so than what you can actually teach them about genetics, you know?
Yeah.
And in my own experience, what I learned in school was more how to learn things rather than learning individual facts or those kinds of things, how to be with other people, how to learn with and from other people. And so the interaction between people and between collectives of people is how education can shift society. What's personally most, I guess, confounding to me is that there is so much administrative resistance to it. There is so much work that needs to be you have to write reports, you have to write progress, all of that is not necessary for the child to learn or for you to teach. Textile crafting and craft work, as opposed to technical craft work, but I happened to like that, so it didn't affect me negatively, and it didn't feel like something I couldn't identify with, right? So I was able to project myself into that space, and it was fine. And after that, I've had just really lovely teachers that I felt were engaging for everyone in class. And of course, this is my limited perspective, but I didn't feel that there was actually something that was preferred or something that was expected of me because I was a girl. Yeah. Every once in a while you hear, oh, well, you're good in math for a girl. And I'm like, okay, guess you're bad at math for being a student. So, yeah, and in my own practice of teaching, we work with a lot of texts that foreground experiences of marginalized peoples, and sometimes those marginalized peoples are also women or female identifying. And so I think it's important to have it be a subject, to have it be present in the subject matter, because that's where students can find themselves. That's how students find the vocabulary to articulate what they themselves think. But I don't, at university it's different again, because these are because they're older, and they're sort of, they don't define themselves so much as boys and girls anymore, but rather as young adults, as people starting out their lives as students. You're arriving in Graz, and it's a different life. Yeah. And so the newness is more of a factor in that. Yeah. But of course, there are still things that are gendered. There are still things and expectations. If you look at the numbers of people who are in STEM fields as opposed to humanities, there is still a large, unparity. So I had a conversation. As we move into the future, there will be more people who do not identify with their birth gender. Right. There will be more people who want to transition young, who want to participate in those things. And I think there needs to be a room for them. And I think even if we don't like the word, I think they need to feel included. Right. They need to feel welcome. They need to be, they need to have a space for them. And sports very much it plays such an important role in embodiment, in how you relate to your body. Yeah. And as most of the people have problems with their body image, have problems with how they feel in their own skin, how they can relate to themselves. Yeah. And if you don't have access to movement as a source of joy, as something that gives you something, you can't learn that when you're older, or it's very difficult to learn when you're older. It is definitely, yeah. Yeah, and so they need to have a room for that. And also, I mean, in middle school, it's also that your body is changing at that
Yes,
time,
of
and
course.
that there might be awkwardness, and that perhaps there is a shyness between the groups.
Yes,
so
yes.
you
And
have
then-
to be respectful
yeah.
of that as well.
And there are boys who don't want to play soccer, and
Yeah.
there are girls who want.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and not every girl wants to do rebound aerobic every
Exactly, exactly.
It should just be accepted that people are naturally different.
Yeah.
I think the fact that not everyone can have access to that feeling at the same time says something about us and how we create our classrooms. And the way we become more inclusive is by allowing more perspectives into the classroom. By, of course, you're the teacher and you're sort of the organizing instance. You're the one who presents the things. But everyone is going to have an experience in the classroom. And it should be that everyone feels at least comfortable enough to say when something's wrong. At least that.
Yeah.
If not say when something's right, because like usually when it's going okay, no one will complain. But when something's wrong and you feel that there is kind of a conflict, or you feel that subgroups might form, or that one student might really have a bullying problem or something like that, we need to be able to address that. And of course, this is kind of a negative view of inclusivity because it's prompted by conflict.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I see that as limited, but that's how I've seen it most. But I would love for it to be a proactive process where you say, no, we're all here, we're all welcome. This is. It doesn't matter if you have a native language that's different from German, as long as you can communicate. Right. And the communication can happen on multiple levels. Like even in my own classroom, where we were majority German speakers, we occasionally spoke English just to practice or French just to practice, and like it was seen as an asset.
Sure.
So why can't it be an asset that you come with a second tongue already?
Yeah.
Why isn't that a good thing?
Yeah.
Why would that be a defect in your education, that you have another skill? And so I think by welcoming those other interests, those other things that they like into the classroom. We talked about that every child has something that they're curious about. Every child has something that they can bring. And I
Sure.
think that should be celebrated rather than focus on what they perhaps cannot do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or cannot do yet even, because
Yeah.
they're still young. Like
They can
everything
learn.
can change.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
yeah. So it's not a very definitive answer, but I think that having a space that's welcoming
Yeah.
would be a good start.